Guys, today we're going to talk about how I get out of a self-critical spiral. I'm going to break this into two parts. Today is part one, which is the process steps that I use, the very specific things that I actually do to get out of the spiral. And then tomorrow, we're going to go through part two, which is the principles that I use to develop and continually adapt those process steps, and that you can use too to develop your own custom playbook. So I fall into self-critical spirals all the time. It happens when I have a pain flare up and I have to cancel my plans. It happens when I think I did a bad job on a call, when I'm late responding to texts, when I eat like crap over the weekend, when I get stressed out that I'm not going to achieve my business goals. I would say that minimum 2 to 3 times a week, I fall into some kind of sticky, persistent, quicksand-like self-critical funk. And here is how I pull myself out of it. Now, this is not meant as a manual of exact steps for you to follow, though of course, you're welcome to follow them. This is the custom playbook that I've developed for myself over time through lots of reps, lots of iterations, and lots of adjustments. And I'm going to keep updating and iterating on this playbook for myself in the future. My playbook a year from now will probably look very different than the one that I'm going to tell you about today. But I thought you might like to see a snapshot of what this playbook looks like right now. The first thing I do, I ask, what would I think if Taylor Swift did the exact things that I did? AKA, I tap into my inner fan. Now, I talked about how to tap into your inner fan several months ago, and I've linked the article above. And it's still a technique that I use regularly. Let me give you a specific example. Let's say I have a pain flare-up, I cancel all my calls, I don't do any writing or anything else on my to-do list for the day, I order takeout for dinner, and then I stay up until 4 a.m. watching crappy reality TV. This is a sequence of events that is guaranteed to send me into a self-critical spiral. When I wake up the next morning, bleary-eyed and sleep-deprived, I'm going to feel like absolute crap about myself on every dimension. Now, my inner critic is already pretty strong just to begin with, but after a day like that, it will transform into a Hulk-sized beast with a mile-long list of judgments that can totally paralyze me. And a hulked-out inner critic is hard for me to outmaneuver. You can't just have a rational conversation with it. Logic and evidence don't really make an impact. So I ask myself, if Taylor Swift had a pain flare-up, canceled all her calls, didn't write any songs, didn't do anything else on her to-do list, ordered takeout for dinner, and stayed up until 4 a.m. watching crappy reality TV, what would I think about her? Now, I'm a huge freaking fan of Taylor Swift, which is another way of saying I have unconditional positive regard for her. Whatever she does, I'm a fan. And so when I ask myself that question, I transfer some of that unconditional positive regard that I have for Taylor Swift onto myself. Because if Taylor Swift did those things, I would still see her as a whole person outside of one day's actions. And those things would be an insignificant blip with little to no impact on my overall opinion of her. If anything, I might tell her, that sounds like a rough day. Take it easy today, get some rest. When your automatic brain is really flared up, logic and evidence might not reach it. And when that happens, you can go back to your automatic brain's native language, which is association. AKA, just hold these two things next to each other and make a connection between them. The inner fan question operates on association, not on logic. I'm not trying to make a logical connection between me and Taylor Swift. I am making an associative connection between us. I'm telling my brain, take the stuff I did yesterday and hold it next to your unconditional positive regard for Taylor Swift, and then just make a connection between those two things. Now, this doesn't instantly make me feel amazing, but it lightens the load, enough so that I can get out of bed. Then, the next thing I do, I gently start to take action. Once I'm out of bed, I start very slowly, very gently, doing productive person things. If I was a good, productive, on top of it person, what would I do? I'd do the normal routine that I do when I'm feeling good. And so I start doing that slowly. Brush my teeth, mouthwash, shower, pray, coffee, Wordle, texts, emails. My hulked out inner critic really wants to believe you're a lazy slob that gets nothing done. But slowly, one by one, I'm doing productive person things per my own mental definition of what that is. And what this does is it creates an incongruence that my brain needs to resolve. How can I be a lazy slob if I'm doing productive person things? And the more productive person things that I do, the weaker my inner critic gets because it just doesn't make sense to my brain. Then, what I do next, I bathe in a stream of other people's thought suggestions. At this point, still not feeling amazing, but I've gotten myself to low grade crappy, which is a big upgrade from catastrophically crappy. But I'd like to feel sharp and purposeful and on top of things. I don't really have the mental energy to find the thoughts that will get me there. So enter other people's thought suggestions. I turn on a podcast from one of my favorite coaches. This time it was Make Money as a Life Coach by Stacey Boehman. It's a business podcast, and the topic of the episodes aren't related really to self-esteem or self-criticism in any kind of a direct way. The episode I listened to in this specific example was just the host sharing fun facts about herself. But I tell my brain, just relax into the stream of someone else's thoughts and just see if anything resonates with you. See if anything clicks and makes you feel sharp and purposeful and on top of things and good enough. And when I'm looking for it, I find it. The host talks about how, for her, setting big revenue goals isn't only about making more and more money. It's really about who she's becoming as she pursues those goals. And for some reason, in that moment, something about that resonates with me. I think about who I'm becoming and who I'm trying to be. Feel motivated, energized, purposeful, on top of things. And I'm back. Once I feel better, I ask myself, what happened? Do I want to do anything differently? So once I'm out of the self-critical spiral, then I can analyze what happened calmly and analytically. How did my day end up taking me to such a crappy place? My inner critic wants to say, it happened because you're lazy. But my analysis shows that that is not what happened. Here's what really happened. I tried something new in my physical therapy routine, something that I truly believed would be helpful. Inadvertently, the new PT caused a minor pain flare-up. When I have a flare-up, it's really hard for me to focus. I almost always will reschedule my calls because trying to coach someone when you're distracted just isn't helpful to anyone. I tried to write, but I just didn't have the bandwidth for that either. I actually still sent out an email newsletter that day. I just sent something from the backlog of pieces that I hadn't published yet. The other tasks on my list, they just didn't seem that important. Not important enough to battle through a flare-up just to complete them. A flare-up tends to make me really tired. And when I'm tired, my brain is really convinced that takeout will be both comforting and energizing. I was too tired to fight my brain, so I ordered the takeout. And then I felt bad about ordering the takeout. And because I didn't want to sit there feeling bad about myself, I kept hitting next episode to block out that bad feeling until I was so tired that I just fell asleep. And that took until 4 a.m. So the root cause here wasn't laziness. It was 80% just plain health stuff. Moving calls and adjusting my schedule made total sense. The takeout wasn't the best decision, but I get it. It's a low energy moment for me. What I could do going forward, I could pre-select a moderately healthy takeout option for these kinds of moments. So I can still have the fun of ordering out, but it's not like total open season on Uber Eats. And it was 20% the impact of my own self-critical spiral. Once I started feeling bad about myself for ordering out, I just wanted to escape that feeling, which led me to watch hours and hours of TV, which only gave my inner critic even more shade to throw at me. So there was no laziness here either. I just didn't catch on to what was happening in my brain because I was tired and I was distracted by the pain. And now I know this is a mental pattern that's likely to happen during a pain flare-up. So next time, I just need to catch the spiral even earlier and put a stop to it. But my inner critic's diagnosis of you're a lazy slob was totally wrong. That's literally not what happened here. Now, I don't share all of this to say, here's your ready to go manual for getting out of self-critical spirals. Though like I said, please feel free to borrow from this. The reality is, I have not yet found a universal set of process steps that can get every person out of self-critical spirals every single time in all situations. If I ever find those universal set of process steps, I'm going to shout it from every rooftop. But honestly, I don't think it's about the specific process steps because I keep updating and evolving this playbook, even just for myself. I think the real magic is in the principles that allow me to develop and continually adapt this playbook. I started writing up what those principles are, thinking it would just be a few bullets or paragraphs at most, and it turned into a full second article that is even longer than this one. So those principles are coming up tomorrow. And if you want to develop your own custom playbook for getting out of self-critical spirals, that is exactly what I help my clients do. So come talk to me and let's get started today. Go to the link above and book a free coaching consult.